Welcome back. And yes, what a place to welcome you back to. Now I had filmed a whole bunch of sequence, and the funny part is, as people will no doubt have noticed, my videos have become quite long. And believe you me, when I go to start editing, because I do actually edit these videos, I know they kind of look like they just fell off the back of a movie truck into a ditch stroke dumpster fire. But when I start editing these videos down, they're actually closer to about an hour long. And yes, I probably should upload twice a week at that point. But that's just way too much responsibility for a person like me. Trying to keep all these. I don't have ducks in rows, just so you know. I have rabid squirrels, and they are all over the shop. They are everywhere. Pretty sure they're planning my demise as we speak. So further to what was already filmed, and most of you will recognize what this is. We had sort of got down to that we were looking at the steering matrix, which is this stuff there. So yeah, the rod with the thread on it was, what did I say, $700. Then the castings that those rods up to the gearbox, those little castings were like, I don't know, I forget. They're like $400 a piece. I can't remember. At this point, Anyway, turns out that's not the problem. The problem, if you follow the steering shaft along, it comes to here. And then you can see in the center of the screen, it goes up through the floor. That's to the steering wheel. Well, what's this thing? So that is the shuttle. That's the shuttle shift for forward and back, or fore and aft as they call it, which is a sailing term which I really don't understand why it's on slow going land equipment. Anyway, so this is a cable that goes up to the joystick, and you'll see up here it bolts onto right there. It bolts onto a rod which goes into this housing here, which is like a little miniature hydraulic ram. Because there you can see hydraulic fittings. So what that is it's called hydraulic over cable. So it's hydraulic assist on the joystick. Apparently it must be like super hard to run the joystick if you didn't have that. So, talking to my contact up at Mazers there, Tim, and he said you could have a compromised ram. So what I did was I took the ram off, unbolted it from this, unbolted it, brought it down, took the hoses off it, took it apart. I did have some still pictures of it, but they're gone. They're like I said, dumpster fire, squirrels, do the math. So I'll try and go through this as quick as possible because I realize I do a lot of talking. So in here, where the cable is bolted to it, there's a little rod that goes back and forward, and it's got a bunch of rings on it. So when you push or pull this, the rod selects a diversion for the hydraulic pressure that then turns this off and on. So elongate, elongate. And as you can see up there, it'll push and pull on the top, pivot, push and pull down here. So that's how the steering works, and the shuttle back and forward. So yeah, it's all connected. Now, I took it apart. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, from what I can tell, because there was no blow up picture of it. Couldn't tell what was going on until I took it apart, and then I figured it all out by myself. Figured it out. That little rod it has reliefs along the rod. So when it goes to one point, it bypasses the oil, and when it goes to the other part, it lets the oil go the other way. So that's what that is. So the next thing Tim said, if you follow the hoses back, they go to this block, solenoid block here. Now there is one electric solenoid there. So there could be a blown O-ring in there. Now, that's not, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. There's a very large diverter block. You can see 4 solenoids all in a row. There's a big block right there. That block, we have known for a long time that it is cracked. We have replaced the O-rings in it a number of times, even back when the family owned it, and we just sort of buttered on through because it's $3,000 for the new block. So it was one of those where it just kept getting back shelf. Well, now it's literally impossible, because as you can tell by the state of these hoses, she leaks. She leak bad, and the O-rings are in such a bad shape it's bypassing the oil to the point when you switch the header off, it keeps turning slowly, so there's still pressure getting through all the O-rings, to which I don't know how bad the crack has got. I'm wondering whether there's a problem, because I think that services this. So it's whether to dig into that, and it's that all along, or we have to dig into them all. And this is just, you wonder, like, why is there so much here? It's not like it's a complicated piece of equipment. Yeah. So that's where we're at. And the problem is, still me. The problem is, I took it apart, put it all back together, and believe you me, I took pictures, I put it all back together, started the swather up, and it took off, and it tried to run into the workshop door. Yeah, that got my attention. So I shut it down, got back under here, started checking everything over. So I don't know whether it purged the system, it pushed all the pressure to one side of the little selector, and that's what's happened. Now, on the 21st of June, the shop foreman told me they would try and get me a tech down the next week. It's now the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to our American cousins down there. It's now the 4th of July, and I'm still getting told it's another week until a tech can come down. Yeah, I'm getting mightily upset because I'm ready to start cutting again. With the windows and the weather, I need to go. So, at this rate, next time we're buying a disc bind, it will not be a New Holland one. You can mark my words on that. It will not. MacDon, if you're listening to this, get me a machine and you will have our business forever. I know the McDonald's are bagpipers as well, so we're kind of leaning towards them. Anyway, but this is beyond a joke. It's not even harvest time. It's not like the techs are, but they said they're short of people, so I don't know whether everyone's on holiday or what it is, but hey, ranchers are making hay. You guys need to think more about this. We're important too, not just the big grain guys. Anyway, so this is where we're at. I got to take that back apart and figure out why it locked up. And then I'm going to have to try and suss something out here because I need this machine running. And like he said, it's at least another week out. So there's 10 minutes of your life you won't get back. Sorry about that. Blame the squirrels. Buongiorno. Yeah, I know, it looks awful. Anyway, so we're back at her. Previous clip, I think I was underneath this machine. Now the wiggly woo and the steering and the shuttle still is not solved, but the other problem that had arisen has been solved. And if it's anything to do with why there's a very weird title to this video, this will explain why. So that little hydraulic ram with the extra part, which is a shuttle valve to give hydraulic assist to this, outside of this, just for this. So it's upside down. So when I disconnected it and I brought it down through the frame, turns out I had turned it back to front. So when I hooked up the hydraulics again, because I put the hoses, because whoever had done that before had put the hoses underneath, which were right next to the frame, so I rerouted them up on top of the other hoses. Yeah, I put them back to front. And I thought, well, what's it gonna matter? It just works on power assist. Yeah, apparently one way is power, another way is deadheading. So when I hooked it up the wrong way, it was 100% power to the joystick, which when I started it up, sent the joystick straight forward and the swather towards the workshop. And then when I got it reset and I turned it around, it sent this straight at the house. So yeah, I had to kill the ignition, shut it down. And yeah, I've still got at least another week or so till the technicians come out to figure out. It's kind of leaning more towards there's a soft motor on one of the wheels. I think it's the right side, because when I'm going, it seems like the right side is always sort of slow. That's not going to be great, but at least that will give us answers. The hydraulic electric solenoid is still to replace, but that will get done when this machine is no longer needed. Back to the case at hand. So we're back cutting. Those keen-eyed looking over here will go, wow, things look different. Yes, they do. I've always wondered why this machine, with the doors that are underneath the machine laid as wide as possible, it was still... Now, it left a swath that was the width of the baler, which was great. But the edges seemed like there was a rope of material, and then the center was thin. And that's why we always had trouble getting the swaths to dry down. You'd always have these green strips underneath the edges. Well, it turns out these diverters underneath the cab, you don't need them, because there's a little plate right here with that handle that was seized. So while I was under the swather, I was checking it out, couldn't move it. So I thought, I'm not bothering putting the belly pan back on this swather, because there's going to be a guy coming out to take a look at it. So I don't want any of the crop coming up and hitting the hoses and stuff that are underneath the cab. So I thought, well, if I can get that deflector put down a little bit, that'll help make sure it doesn't make contact with all of the expensive stuff under there. So I wellied on it, literally wellied on it, and finally got it down. So it's not all the way down, it's just the second last one. And would you look at that? This whole blinking time, when I've been watching Bale's hay and ranch down in Texas, because they grow pure alfalfa, pedigree alfalfa for the horse market and all the dairies, and they're massies, the massy well, swathers, that's what they are, windrowers, would lay out this really fine ribbon. And I'm thinking, if you're going to be raking, why not leave it out as wide as you possibly can and as neat as you possibly can to speed up the drying. You're going to rake it, speeds up everything, get going. Would you look at how absolutely gorgeous that is? I cannot believe this whole blinking time. So that swath has got to be at least 10 feet wide. Because if you look at the gaps there, there's maybe 3 feet on either side. And this is a 16-foot header, so that's got to be a 10-foot swath. And you'll notice there's no edge, like build up on the edge. It's laying it out completely the width of the crimpers. Because if you look, 3, 10, 3. This whole time we've owned this machine, didn't know that that door takes the place of all these panels that were underneath the swath of the New Holland had put under here. Ah, dummy! Oh. So yeah, Talk about a game changer. An absolute game changer. The only issue with this is I can't just go and straight bale behind the machine now. So we have to rake. And that's what'll probably steer us to next season, getting a V-rake. Because if we had like a 14 to 16 wheel V-rake that would pick up these two 10-footers, oh my gosh, talk about an absolute game changer. Oh, I'm all excited. Oh. So I got this little piece here to do, and then I'm going to go open up the two next big hay fields, and then we have this pasture field here, but this only one gets cut once a year, so doesn't need to be right away. But yeah, if I was ever more happy to be stupid, this would be it. Let's get on. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, how is this for flat? You look at the swath, you look at the crop. The swath's the same height as the crop. Yeah, that's wind, hail, and torrential downpour. She's getting her up though. Let's get on. How are you now? Good and you? Not so bad. So here's a good spot now that we're into the second field, opening up, to show what a game-changing difference the new setting on the header is. Like I said, it's a 16-foot cut, and you look how wide those swaths are. Yeah. Talk about speeding up the dry down time. You're not going to have as much like thick mat and have that dense stuff underneath that never gets to dry down. Setting it out that wide. Now, especially considering you look at the condition of this stuff here, like right there in the middle, flat. The swath is actually higher than the crop that I'm cutting. That's how bad it got. So, I'm doing 6 headlands, and then I'm going to go and open the next field as well. And then I've still got the baling to finish over in the other field. And yeah, like I said, I think this is going to really help shave at least a couple of days off of the drying time, and quality should go way up. So, let's get on. There's Liam, hauling bales, 2 bales at a time. Well, that can't be good. Yep. Dead in the row. And weirdly enough, it wasn't the water pump that did it. Tractor ran out of diesel. Yeah, this has the chronic Ford digital dash. I wish it was the old, what do they call that? Analog? I wish it was the old TW analog dashboard, because these digital ones are chronically problems. You got to send them away to get them rebuilt. It's like $800 to have them redone. No, what happened was this thing ran out of diesel. I don't know whether someone siphoned the diesel out, because this thing has 2 big diesel tanks, and I did not fill it up that long ago. And yeah, so damned if you do, damned if you don't. Anyway, so what happened was, died in the swath while I was waiting for Mrs. Piper Doug to come rescue the Piper Doug. I get out, check the tank. Yeah, it's bone dry. It has a saddle tank down there, so it must be empty also. So you saw in the last video, solenoid let go in the starter motor. Lucky enough, I had a spare solenoid. I don't know if I bought it for this one. It fit. It works. I knew this water pump was going because there is a hole right there on that one, and it's been leaking out of there. Well, when the tractor run out of diesel, the water was pishing out of there, absolutely pouring out. So maybe it was a saving grace that the tractor ran out of diesel, because then I found out that I was running out of coolant because I don't have a temperature gauge. So yeah, I'd already picked this up preemptively. So as far as I know, it's plug and play. The weird thing is, this has the pulley on it for the fan, but the water pump on the 30 series does not have the fan. That's up there. So the water pump's here. The hole is under there. So gotta undo all these silly little things and try and smudge it out of there. And this is coming, and as you all know, when this is coming, bugs are everywhere. People that live in the part of the world that don't have mosquitoes and blood flies, oh, and yeah, I get it, midges are wee biteies, but believe you me, mosquitoes leave a gift. You itch like crazy. Anyway, let's go. Hurry now. Okay, so we're into this new stand. So this was where the oats were last year and corn was in the year before. So this has not had any weed control, fertilizer or anything on it in 2 seasons so far. Actually, that's a lie, 3 seasons now, because the first year we did corn, we didn't fertilize it at all, and we didn't burn off. So technically this is 3 years organic. As you will see, it's crazy. I'm having to go fairly slow because I've already plugged the header 3 times. Now, one of the things that might have contributed to that is down there, see where it's dark? Well, there was a bend on that plate that we now learned that's supposed to be down to help make these big white swaths. There was a bend on that, it always had been there. It's been there since we bought the machine. Seems like that was causing a bottleneck. So as this huge tall mustard and whatnot was coming through here, it was hitting that and backing into the crimper, and then when it backed into the crimper, it caused the belts to slide by, and then it would pack on front of the crimpers on top of the turtles, and then you're done, and that's not fun to undo. So took it back in the shop, put my tall bottle jack under there, and took Thor 1 and Thor 2, my big hammers, just laid a welly on it, just straight. I've got another mile and a half an hour faster cutting, so that's good. So the other good news is, if you watch this, yeah, steering's pretty well fixed. It's like 99%, and guess how much it cost? Drum roll, 700. Drum roll, 1,500. Drum roll, dodgy hydraulic pump for like 5,000. Nothing. On the gearboxes where it drives the hydraulic pumps for these wheels, one got rebuilt because the bearings blew out on the arm. So the arm looks like the top of a bicycle pedal arm, like where it bolts onto the shaft, so it's got a pinch. So that bolt had backed off. It wasn't loose. You put a wrench on it, you could not turn it. But I could put almost a whole complete new turn on it with 2 wrenches. I will post a picture where it is because it's down in behind a lot of stuff, and believe you me, it cost me a burn in my arm because the engine's hot. So yeah, you link 2 wrenches up. It's the only way you can get in there, because you cannot get in there with a breaker bar, you cannot get in there with a ratchet. But 2 wrenches linked together, dog legs, just enough to get onto this bolt, and I got almost a whole turn. And it's glorious. It's It's a glorious thing. So yeah, talk about wow. So let's get on. Got a lot of cutting. Well, I tell you that's a first for me. I've got this header turned as high as I feel it's safe to go. So I have the RPM set at 2800 RPMs on the header. I'm not sure how high it goes, but it was at 2500, which is where it was normally set, and it will boost up to 2700. So I set it up to 2800 because I plugged this header 9 times. Like you already know, it's a 16-foot cut. So it's actually getting easier. This is the easy part. Back up there is where it was not so easy, like to the center of the screen. Where that wild mustard and sweet clover was, it was about 5 feet, maybe 6 feet in some spots. But it was laying over. I probably should have cut this field east to west. Oh, put you back out. I probably should have cut this field east to west. That way the stuff wasn't leaning in or out of the header. Problem was it was seated north and south, so it would have been rough as a badger's bum. And the issue with traveling north, because the crop is all laying south, because that's the way that hailstorm laid everything down. Like right now you can tell, is by the time that tall stuff was going into the crimper, it still wasn't cut off at the cutter bar. So that's where we were having trouble, was it wasn't cut off at the cutter bar, it was bunching up underneath the auger and it was entering into the crimper. And then the next thing, that belt would start burning off. So that got to be fun. So basically, I'm going to be looking at to see if you can switch out those pulleys to a double chain drive, because I don't know why it's belt drive. Maybe it's because of the speed, I don't know. But I know if it was chain drive, I would not have plugged the header. Maybe I would have plugged it harder. Who knows? Hey, maybe you won't be able to see that. That's hard to check out. There's Liam, center of the screen, right there. The old John Deere with the bale processor, picking bales. Yes, we have a bale picker, and yes, the bale picker is broken. Bale picker wouldn't pick those bales anyway, because those bales are about 1,700 pounds, and our bale picker only having one arm, would not be able to throw the bale over onto the second side. Plus, loading bales like that on the second cut last year is what broke the back of the bale picker. That shaft that I repaired, it broke again. I have an invention to fix that so it will not break again. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, maybe Morris Industries will watch my video and go, oh, maybe we should do that to the bale pickers to stop them from breaking. Anyway, so the reason I'm sitting here is I got the warning for the hydraulic pump was overheating. And that's one thing I don't want to aggravate, because that's a new hydraulic pump in this machine and it was a lot of money. So I gotta just let it cool down, get this last bottom end here cut, and then head back up there to where the rest of the stuff is. Yeah, I even sharpened the one side of the blades, but I think I might go and flip the blades to do the rest of it, because it's a hard go. It is hard going. But I'll bring you back. So 2 days ago, this was cut. My gosh, you'd almost bail that. Oh my gosh. This is a game changer. So 2 days ago, I did the wow. I did these rows 2 days ago. I did this stuff yesterday. And that's coming on really well. Yeah, so I did the headlands yesterday. So that's the difference between just around about supper time yesterday, and it's now about 7:45. So that's the difference. So this is the light end of the field. This is where the corn never ever amounted to anything. So as you can see, this is the first time the alfalfa has been cut. This is it. Last year we did the oats. There never was much in the way of alfalfa. Well, the oats drowned it out. But it's great up here. You go down there, she starts laying down, and then you get into the wild mustard. So she's a bit of a bugger. So I was gonna tell you all, like Viking DNA, where is it? There. That cut my finger from the baler, the net wrap cutter bar thing. Yeah, almost healed. Then I went and put the grinder across my finger while I was sharpening the blades on that. Yeah, it's been a day. Oh yeah. And then there's this. Yeah. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of this stuff wrapped around the arms for the header pickup, and it was starting to bunch along the edge of the swath, so I reached in to grab it and pull it away. And that diverter plate, that part where I bent it straight up, apparently it's really sharp now. So yeah, gashed open the old part in there. So blue shop towel and electrical tape and get back at her. There's my friend again. Maybe I can make that out. Big bald eagle, just waiting for chopped off gophers and mice. Okay, get back at it. And for those of you who are worried that pasture that far on, how palatable it'll be to the animals, yeah, they're doing fine. See? It's literally the same as just eating hay. So, hopefully you can hear me. They're going to this next paddock tomorrow. So, that's down enough. See that? That's great cover, so it'll bounce back quicker. Of course, the cows I need to medicate at the top of the field. Water pump installed. Top. Filled up the diesel. Bled the injectors. Back at her. We got another 45 bales made here. Just cleaning this stuff up, and then we'll start trying that new stuff on the white setting. It might be close to where the baler will actually pick it up in one shot, but we'll have to wait and see. And yes, there's a risk of rain. Again. Can't make this stuff up, people. ready. So, this is the stuff that was earlier in the video where I first cut after the new setting on the disc spine, and you can see how wide it is. So I've been playing around with the rake. The best thing I can think to do is just basically fold the swath over on itself at half point. So that's why I'm riding along like this, doing that. So basically it's just, like I said, folding it over on itself. That way any of the leaves that are coming off of the stuff that I've driven on and raked are landing on the other stuff, so hopefully we will get some of it back. And that way we're not going to end up with a swath where there's a whole bunch at one side of the swath and then the other side's kind of thin, so that'll make weird shaped bales. This should be good. So in the next video you will see the baler in here, because this stuff is ready. If I had a V-rake, great. If I had a whole bunch of stuff ready to rake, I would go and rent the rake from Ag. They've got I think it's a 14-wheel rake, but I can't justify the, what is it, $500 a day or whatever it is, to do a few headlands. So here we are. Next year in the budget there will be a V-rake.